presentation in Part 1 presents evidence the horses were healthy on November the 10th, 2013. Copy of their health records were placed in the National Archives by Dr. Stiggy, and we were given copies to show to whoever might ask for them. We showed our concerns about a new rider, Holly, who allowed her horse's feet to become elongated and split to the hairline. We are the ones who brought the farrier in to take a look at her horse, and she agreed to maintain it from that day forward. Where, when, who, and how our horses were injured and became ill is well documented and covered in Part 1. Where, when, and how we got our horses back in Muskogee, Oklahoma is also documented, as well as the types of feed we use, the medicines I used to treat their various injuries and their illness, as I continued to try and find a veterinarian to check them out during this holiday season. Part 1 shows we did not arrive into Lindale, Texas until December the 24th, 2013. I found a quiet pasture where we could keep the horses until Holly and her friend Jessica joined us within a day or two. I located a field in Lindale, Texas that was both near the hotel but far from where anyone might bother them. While I received permission from the people at the EMS office, they were in no view of the route I would use to care for them. When Holly failed to arrive, I began moving the horses from one area to the next so they could supplement their feed with the grasses. I received permission from some people at an EMS office to use the field, but they were not where they had a view of the route that I used to care for the horses. La Quinta was the closest place to where the horses were. Witnesses saw me feeding them, as did people from Comfort Suites and Mother Frances Healthcare. But most of the witnesses were the employees of Posadas Cafe, which watched me as I crossed the field each day from their view as they gathered to smoke or take breaks. The field is covered with grass, but the water table is very, very shallow. To keep from making a muddy trail, I had to walk a different path, except where I had to move through the tree line. What Sergeant Chad McEllier would have people believe and testified to in court that myself carrying a 50-pound bag of feed once or twice in a 3-week period created this muddy path. But where 6 horses were highlined between 2 trees for a minimum of 3 weeks without food or water, left what he called only a sprinkling of hay and bits of feed on the grass beneath the horses' feet. More, they remained on the high line for 3 weeks, according to the sergeant, without a drink, but didn't break the 100-pound line when there was water no more than 10 feet away. On December the 28th, I picked up a new high line from Lowe's, number 1965, right across the road. I also picked up 6 brass clips, and these are what the horses were attached to when Sergeant McEllier saw them on January the 1st. The truth is simple. 6 horses, had they not been moved each day, would have left a beaten line of mud, and they would have been rolling around in it, at least drinking from some puddle they had created. The simple fact is, the horses, when they were picked up on January the 2nd, they were clean, not a spot of mud on them. As we move along the fence line, it is evident that I moved the horses to exercise them in the quiet every other day, though I would have liked to have moved them and exercised them every day, except I had to raise money, buy feed and hay, as well as continue my search during this holiday season for a veterinarian to document the abuse they received in Muskogee. Again, you can see how deep the hoof prints are, even in this part of high ground. There is clear evidence here against my being guilty of any animal abuse. Even more exists than I have presented in these 2 videos, and yet a judge marred by lies or ignorance presented my horses and those riding for the American people and the veterans who serve this country to the city of Lindale. Sergeant McEllier had all of this evidence before I was arrested. But there is more. Where was I the morning of January the 2nd while he was looking at the horses with Holly and Jessica? I had fed and watered the horses, moved them to the fence line, and told Holly and Jessica I was going to Dr. Cannon's office to have him come look at the horses. I can find no other case that he refers to on Facebook, and yet he posted a statement that he will not comment about this case. Dr. Gilbreth made statements in court that bring into question his credentials. He said he's never heard of Vetericin. It was Dr. Gilbreth who testified in court and said that a horse is born with the metabolism it dies with and nothing can change their metabolism. He scoffed at the idea exercise and diet alters a horse's metabolism. He said he had never heard of wound coat, tricare, cut heel, or well horse resin. He said he had never heard of horse liniment. He suggested I could have poured out 3 bottles of penicillin onto the ground and squirted the one out that was half full. He further stated, as did their animal control officer, they had never heard anyone suggest that a horse's hooves can tell someone about their diet and health. Sergeant McEllier, Dr. Gilbreth, and the animal control officer testified in court that Zoe had died and suggested it was my fault. I got the feed records in court that day, the day the judge awarded my horses legally to the city of Lindale, and it was on that day they gave me the feed records as a part of my bill, and I discovered that Zoe had died 6 weeks after she had been in their care. 6 weeks she died of colic. Their feed records show a blueprint of how to kill a horse from colic. Their records show the horses were fed on January the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, but not on the 15th, the 16th, or the 17th. They were fed again on the 18th, 19th, and 20th, but not on the 21st or the 22nd. They were fed on the 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th, but not on the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, or the 31st. They were fed again on February the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, but not on the 5th. They were fed on the 6th, but not on the 7th. The 8th, 9th they were fed, but not on the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, or 14th. On the 15th, 16th, and 17th, or 20th. They fed them again on the 22nd and the 23rd, but not on the 24th, 25th, or 26th. It is noted in their record